Fears have gripped this country, obviously, and you touched on earlier, since the San Bernardino attacks. Since our last debate, the national conversation has changed, according to Facebook data as well. Now, this first graphic shows the issues that were most talked about right before those attacks and now after. The issues of Islam, Homeland Security, and ISIS now loom very large. The FBI says Islamic radicals are using social media to communicate and that it needs better access to communication. Now, the CEO of Apple, Governor Tim Cook, says, unless served with a warrant, private communication is private, period. Do you agree, or would you try to convince him otherwise?
I would try to convince him otherwise, but this last back and forth between two backbench senators, it explains why we have the mess in Washington, D.C. We need a president that will fix our immigration laws and stick with it, not bend with the wind. The simple fact is, one of the ways, Maria, to solve the problem you described is narrow the number of people coming by family petitioning to what every other country has, so that we have the best and the brightest that come to our country. We need to control the border. We need to do all of this in a comprehensive way, not just going back and forth and talking about stuff.
You answered this question.
Oh, I'll talk about that too, but you haven't asked me a question in a while, Neil, so I thought I'd get that off my chest, if you don't mind.
Fair enough. So Tim Cook is going to keep it private.
I got that, and the problem today is there's no confidence in Washington, D.C. There needs to be more than just one meeting. There needs to be complete dialogue with the large technology companies. They understand that there's a national security risk. We ought to give them a little bit of a liability relief so that if they share data amongst themselves and share data with the federal government, they're not fearful of a lawsuit. We need to make sure that we keep the country safe. This is the first priority. The cybersecurity challenges that we face, this administration has failed us completely. Not just the hacking of OPM, but that is just shameful. 23 million files in the hands of the Chinese. So it's not just the governments, the private sector companies, it's also our own government that needs to raise the level of our game. We should put the NSA in charge of the civilian side of this as well. That expertise needs to spread all across the government, and there needs to be much more cooperation with our private sector.
But if Tim Cook is telling you no, Mr. President.
You got to keep asking. You got to keep asking, because this is a hugely important issue. If you can encrypt messages, ISIS can, over these platforms, and we have no ability to have a cooperative relationship.
Do you ask or do you order?
Well, if the law would change, yeah. I think there has to be a recognition that if we are too punitive, then you'll go to other technology companies outside the United States. And what we want to do is to control this. We also want to dominate this from a commercial side. So there's a lot of balanced interests, but the president leads in this regard. That's what we need. We need leadership, someone who has a backbone and sticks with things rather than just talks about them as though anything matters when you're talking about amendments that don't even actually are part of a bill that ever passed.
Governor, thank you.